All right, admit a couple more folks. Sorry, doing a couple different jobs right now. All right. Well, welcome again. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Heather Lear, and I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President for Grants at the Foundation for Evangelism. Let me go ahead and advance the screen. For those of you who might not be familiar with the Foundation for Evangelism and our work, we have been around. Last year, we celebrated our 75th anniversary. And for about 60 plus of those years, we were officially affiliated with the Methodist Church. For the last 10 to 15 years, we have been a pan Wesleyan organization. So we now have, between our grants and our trustees, 8 different denominations represented in our work, which is a gift to have so many expressions of the Wesleyan tradition and the body of Christ be part of our organization. But we've recently modified our vision, and our goal in our work is to help every layperson, pastor, and congregation in the Wesleyan tradition faithfully articulate and embody the good news of Jesus. And we do that through 3 primary ways. The first is around education. We want to ensure that all leaders of congregations and ministries are equipped in evangelism from the Wesleyan tradition, which is quite different than some of the other expressions of evangelism, but it's holistic in nature and addresses not only individuals but society and context. We also are really passionate about equipping and coming alongside and supporting laity. The Foundation for Evangelism was started by lay folks and is still primarily, our board is primarily laity. So we really celebrate and honor the priesthood of all believers and the importance of lay people sharing their faith and the reality that clergy come and go, but the lay folks are the ones who have been and will remain in communities. And then finally, equipping the local church. And that's what you guys are part of today learning about. We especially focus on smaller congregations, which are the majority of our churches, who we believe might have some fewer human or financial resources, but that are equally called and gifted to make a difference for the kingdom. And so we have a couple ways of supporting local churches. But today, we're gonna talk about our cohorts, and as far as our mission, also, again to tie back to today, and the celebration of Juneteenth, the idea that when Jesus said in John 10:10 that he came to bring life and bring it abundantly. That's what we're partnering with local churches to listen well and to hear where are the places in your community where people are not experiencing the fullness of the gospel and that abundant life. And that's what our grants are hoping to address. So let's get started a little bit. I want to hear from you in a second, but just one more aspect about the foundation. If you're looking ever for additional resources, either some Sunday school curriculum, small group curriculum, anything like that, we have a ton of videos and study guides and things like that on our website under our resources page. And so would love for you to check that out at some point. Alrighty. Now let me, as we get started, also make an acknowledgement that these cohorts are possible because of a grant that we received from the Lilly Endowment. We're really grateful that they saw really value and potential in our work of offering training, not only training and helping churches to discern what God is calling them to do and be, but then at the back end, once you've kind of done that work of listening well and understanding what your gifts and strengths may be, to have some seed money to actually implement those initiatives. So grateful to the Lilly Endowment for their partnership. Again, here's our grants team at the Foundation for Evangelism. I'm Heather Lear. I've been on staff since 2019. My partner is Terry Farmer, who actually is currently out on maternity leave over the summer. So she just had a baby girl. We're so excited for her. But you might have seen her name. And if you continue to journey with us from in the fall and beyond, you'll be connecting with Terry once again. But for this summer, she's out. I'm thankfully joined by Ann Lowry, who's filling in. So in the summertime, as you're asking questions or getting communication from our team, you might see her name as well. So just wanted to let you know who we are. So let's briefly, I want to hear from you just in the chat, just so we can get a feel for who all is with us. Let us know where you are, what denomination that your church is a part of, and about what size congregation you are. And again, if you'll just enter that information in the chat, just so we can get a feel. It's been a lot of fun. This will be our third set of cohorts that we've launched, and we've had folks from 5 or 6 different denominations and from all over the country. And it's really a lot of fun to learn from one another and learn about different perspectives. So I invite you to enter that into the chat and then just see who's here with us today. That's great. I won't stay here, but I encourage you to monitor that as we go forward, and for you to keep entering that information. All right. So let me just begin to tell you a little bit about the cohorts, what they are, and the requirements and what we'll be doing. So as I mentioned, these cohorts are designed to gather teams of lay and clergy together who have a passion for doing something new, for connecting with their community, but might need a little bit of help discerning what that might be. And so these cohorts are designed to provide about 5 or 6 weeks of training with an orientation and a follow-up session at the end. And then at the conclusion of that, you'll have a little period of time as a church and as a leadership team to finish that discernment process and then to write for your grant. What we found when we have actually an open cycle, and some of you might have applied for that in the past, every January for churches to launch evangelism experiments. And what we found through the last few years of reading applications is that there were a lot of really excited, passionate churches. But again, they weren't exactly sure what they should be doing, or their idea was to copy something that another church had done successfully, but really didn't fit who they were. So we realized, we asked the question, how do we come alongside these congregations who really want to do something new and are excited, and help them have the tools that they need to launch that new thing and to really hear what God is calling them to do. So that's how these cohorts came to be. As I mentioned, all of the congregations participating are part of a Wesleyan tradition denomination. With the guidelines from the Lilly Endowment, their grants are only eligible for congregations in the United States. We have a couple different options for international churches, but these cohorts are explicitly for congregations within the United States. As I mentioned, we're really trying to focus on some of the smaller congregations. So we've got 2 tiers in both our open cycle as well as these cohorts. We've got and we talk about participation, and there's no hard and fast rule of how we define that, but mostly what the folks who between Sundays worship and other activities, what's your average weekly participation in your different activities? So we have two thresholds, 0 to 100, and then kind of the 100 to 250. And what we ask is that for each congregation, you gather a team of clergy and laity. I'm a United Methodist pastor, and found over the years when I would go off to continuing education, the most successful events were when lay folks went with me, and we worked through and processed the material together. And also, as I mentioned earlier, clergy come and go. So those of you who are laity, if you catch this vision and do this work, even if there happens to be transition in pastoral leadership, the ministry will continue. So what we ask is that if you're in that smaller tier, the 0 to, well, it would at least be 1 or 2, right? If you're under 100, the church will assemble the clergy person and then 4 to 6 laity. If you're up to 250, we ask for 5 to 7. These can be official church officers or leaders, or other people who are just really excited and connected in their community and want to be part of this. But that's the minimum number that we ask to join together for this process. Those who are the official team members, we ask that you would attend every cohort session. Ideally, we would love for you to all be together at your church or in the same location. The way that we run the training, there's a time of presentation of material, of teaching, and then there's breakout sessions where your team will actually process and answer some questions together. And then at the end, we have a report out where we hear from 1 or 2 of the groups to see how they were processing it, and have found that the other churches benefit from that, of just hearing other ideas or how people are approaching the material. So we ask that you all be present. We do not have the exact day and times yet for all of the cohorts that will be offered. The one that is confirmed will be on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern start time. They're all over Zoom, so they're all virtual, and that will begin mid-September. When we add the additional cohorts, I'm not sure yet what days of the week. In the past, we've offered Mondays, we've offered Thursdays. We'll work with you based on your application and what type of curriculum we think would be most helpful, and then the days of the week where most of your team is available to get you placed. But that's what how those work. Again, we ask that when you're participating live, and especially when you're working together, if you're not in place, you just have your cameras on. We know things happen and you might be in the car or something else during those sessions, but if possible, please participate fully. As I mentioned, the sessions will be about 8 weeks. So there's an intro session where we go over the flow of the whole program. There'll be the curriculum content, and then I do a wrap-up session about next steps and a training on a new way of looking at metrics and how we measure transformation in our community. And that's within the framework of abundant life in John 10. And then after that, so we'll wrap up before Thanksgiving, and then you'll have the rest of November, December, and part of January to develop your ministry plan. Your grant application for that $2,500 seed money that will be available to you will open January 15th, and you'll have that till the end of February to complete that. And then grant money will be awarded in May. So I just talked through the timeline. Again, here's another visual of that. Again, we're in June. Here's our orientation session. Over the summer, you'll gather your team. And and I'll show you exactly how to do this. But the application is already open. It will be open until August 1st for you to give us the name of your team members and to answer some basic questions. That training will happen in the fall. You'll work on your grant application and develop that experiment the last of 2025, beginning of 26. The grant money will be awarded in May. And then beginning in June, July, whenever you receive your money, you can start the initiative and you'll have a full year. What we also do with the cohorts, because you'll spend, the 8 weeks with the congregations learning together periodically throughout the year, we'll bring you back together to see how are things going, what are you learning, what obstacles have you encountered. And we found both through our cohorts and our open cycle of folks who've received our local church grants, those gatherings where folks are learning from one another and bouncing ideas and sharing resources have been really well received and helpful. So we'll do that with the cohort groups as well. I've talked through quite a bit of this, but what can you expect in the training? Again, you'll meet online weekly with folks from around the country, from different types of settings, different denominations. A couple of the cohorts will also include some seminary students. The Tuesday evening one that I mentioned, I co-teach with Mark Teasdale, who's the E. Stanley Jones Professor of Evangelism at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois. His seminary students will be part of that as well. A lot of them are local pastors or serving churches, so sometimes they'll bring their congregational teams as well. So that's always really a lot of fun to have local churches and seminarians learning together. Again, you'll develop meaningful, authentic evangelism practices that are expressions of the goodness of God that you've personally experienced, and that will connect with your context. For anybody that's been part of more than one church or even part of the same church, contexts change. And so what might have worked even pre-COVID may not work right now. So how do we develop, again, authentic, creative practices that are true to our experience, as well as will connect with those outside our walls? And again, the sessions will be interactive and participatory throughout. We'll use the technology. We have a web person who's really great at helping us to make these sessions interactive and participatory throughout. What makes our training programs slightly different is first the grant process on the back end. So it's not just here's some training and good luck, but here's some training and we want to help you launch with some seed money and continue to work with you and to follow up through that coaching. I and our other instructors, we're available for coaching or for questions throughout the process. We want to be here to support you. And again, you'll get to meet other folks who are engaged in this work, not only in your area, not only from your denomination, but across the country and the Wesleyan family. And then the other thing we help you with is developing different metrics. All of our denominations have certain reports and things and ways of measuring effectiveness. What I found, I spent 6 years as director of evangelism for the United Methodist Church for the denomination. And a lot of what we measure is kind of activity and busyness, but not necessarily transformation. And is this making a bigger impact? And so we want to provide you some resources to take that measurement and to not just look at numbers, but also gather stories and to see how, again, we're not just measuring the activity within the walls or a busyness, but how is this actually transforming the wider community? All right. So again, how do you, if you think you're interested in taking the next step in applying, our application is open. It opened the 15th. It will close August 1st. We use an online platform called Submittable for our whole process. So I'll show you exactly. I've got some screenshots, but you'll need to, whoever your point person is, whether that's the pastor or a lay leader, whoever's going to be the point person for your group, you'll create a login for this platform Submittable. Once you log in, you'll find the application. We as a staff and as a board actually use that to review the applications, and then all of your reports and your forms will also come through that platform. And this year we've actually included the payment processing through that platform. So it's kind of the one-stop shop for everything from the application all the way through the payment of the grant and the reporting along the way. So you'll just pick somebody from your team that's going to be responsible for that and the point person to create that Submittable account. And you get there on our website through this link here. So when you go to our Foundation for Evangelism website and you go to the top where it says grants, if you highlight over that, you'll see apply for a grant. That will take you, it'll say grant seekers, not apply for a grant, grant seekers. You'll click on that and that'll take you to this page. And you'll see the button on the right that says apply for this cohort. If you scroll down, it gives you some additional information and FAQs. But from this page, once you click apply for this cohort, that will take you to Submittable. And this is the homepage for that. If you scroll down here, and it'll say start application or enter the application. And that's where you begin this process. The application is pretty simple. We're just going to get basic information about your congregation. You'll need to, again, have your team selected because we'll go ahead and ask for their names and their emails because we'll use those emails for registration for the training. But these are the additional questions that we want you to talk about and to share in the application. First, what are your congregation's greatest strengths? What's going really well? What do you have as a congregation, as a collective body, as a facility, as a location that you see has a lot of potential? Secondly, what are your congregation's areas for growth? Again, this is what will help us kind of figure out and tailor which curriculum might be most helpful for your church. For some congregations, it might be that the community around you is changing. You really need some help getting to know your new neighbors or listening well or discerning needs. For others, it might be, we really need to figure out, we do a lot of good things for the community, but we could use some help grounding it in our faith or telling our story or connecting the good that we do with the gospel. There's all sorts of different starting points or areas for growth for churches. So just spend a little time talking about that and seeing what you think right now might be your biggest area for growth and ways that we could come alongside to help you. And then thirdly, why is right now a good time? Why is now the time for you to join one of these cohorts? Again, maybe you've done some discernment, maybe you've had some leadership changes, maybe a new opportunity in your community has emerged. But what is it about right now that makes you interested and excited to join this opportunity? So those are the basic questions. It's a pretty short application form. Again, it's more to help us gather information to see what would be most helpful for you. All righty, that was a lot of information, I know. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen and just see if anyone has any questions about any of that, you'll just raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat. And again, I'm trying to monitor all the things. Right, anybody? That was fairly clear, the process and where we're going. Again, we're excited and we're grateful. And as you get into this and you're talking with your congregational team, or you get into the platform and you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Anne. I'll share our contact information in a second before we log out. But again, the questions are pretty straightforward. Some folks ask, so our open grant cycle that we offer in January, in recent years, we've had about 300 applications and have the funds to award about 50 grants. So there's a lot of folks that have great ideas. We just don't have the resources. If you are accepted into a cohort and you go through the curriculum and you write your grant application, that $2,500 on the back end is pretty much guaranteed. So there aren't a limited number of grants for cohort participants. So basically, if you complete the process, that money, you'll receive it at the end. We also, for all of your named team members, will provide you a copy of the physical book that is the basis for your training. We would love if we ask for a certain number of folks to be on your leadership team and be part of the training. But, if you're on the Tuesday night group, we would love for you on Sunday morning to gather additional folks to watch the recording and talk through the discussion questions. The more folks who are involved in your church with this process, the better, and the better buy-in that you'll have. So let me see. I just see, is there a cost to join the cohort? No. All of the financial piece, thankful to the Partnership for Lilly Endowment, is covered. So there are no costs. We just ask, again, because there's no cost and there are a lot of churches that want to be part, that when you sign up, that you've committed to be there every week, and that you have your team committed to be with you every week as well. Let's see, any other questions? All right. Let's see. Do you have plans for next? Yes. Okay. So the cohorts, we offer them twice a year. So there is a fall offering and a spring offering each year. And the Lilly Grant is through the next 4 years. So we'll at least be doing this for several more years. We hope this is something at the foundation that we can raise money and endow, so that's an ongoing, even when the Lilly grant is over. The timeline for that would be, you would do your training kind of January to March, and then you would have that final wrap-up session in April. You would spend the summer working on your proposal, and your application would be due the September timeframe, and you'd receive the funding in November. So if you are interested, but you're not quite ready, or you have a lot going on this fall, but want to wait till the beginning of 26, there'll be another opportunity for your church to participate. Yes. So I see the recorded sessions. So each week, the training sessions will be recorded, and within 24 to 48 hours, you'll have access to that recording. So again, we ask for everybody to participate live. We know life happens. So if somebody needs the recording, you'll have it, but also really encourage you to use the recording to bring other folks into the training and conversation later in the week. Cohorts are for 8 weeks, roughly. We've had the cohort that I co-lead is 6 weeks of training with the bookend, intro, and wrap-up sessions. We had one other that was 5 weeks of training, so it ended up being 7, but 7 or 8 weeks will be the length of the cohorts. All right. Did I miss any questions? I've been trying to monitor the chat. Everybody good? Okay. To apply, we were in the evangelist cohort. Let's see. Juliet, let me, if you could message me again. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Yes, I can make the slides available on the website. So you will receive a copy of this recording if you want to share it with anybody in your church. It will also be posted to our website on that page that I showed you under grant seekers, where it's got the cohort information. Our communications director, Barbie, will work within the next 24 to 48 hours to get that live on the website as well. And I'll get her the slides to go with it. So let me I'll share one more time to just make sure you have my contact information. Let's see, there we go. So here is my email. While Terry is out on maternity leave, if you send a message to grants at Foundation for Evangelism, that will go to Anne, who is helping us over the summertime, and I will be copied on that as well. So, and then Foundation for Evangelism is our website where you can access everything about our grants as well as those additional resources that I mentioned. Alrighty. Any final questions? It's pretty quick, not keeping you long today. But again, if nothing pops up now and in the next couple weeks, again, you have until August 1st to submit your application. But we know summertime is busy and it's hard sometimes to get everybody together. So I wanted to ensure you had enough time to talk and develop your team and to answer those questions, and wanted to have this session pretty close to when the application opened. So if there aren't any other questions, thank you for joining us. Blessings on your churches and your ministries, and I look forward to hopefully receiving many of your applications and working with you in your congregations. All right, take care.